slowly? Now that's a video.
A good tool improves the way you work. A great tool improves the way you think.
Welcome to Show Woodworking DIY. I'm Roderick. Let's make this end grain cutting board. I also wanted to talk a little bit about tools, why we have so many, why we keep buying more and things like that. I got myself a couple of tools this past Christmas to gift myself for being such a good boy in 2024. I'm not a professional woodworker, but I just love woodworking. I started my woodworking journey around 2020 as a hobby. It still is, accumulating tools slowly. Today I got myself a metabo thickness planer and an einhell tracksaw. I've been planning on getting these two additions for a while now, then I finally pulled the trigger. My first impressions on the planer? I love it. It's a milling machine. Before this, I was the milling machine. It really adds a lot of speed into processing wood. So this is my first tracksaw by einhell. They are a German brand and they offer this awesome budget tracksaw which is around 150 euros or 280 rand for this saw alone. Then you have to get yourself some tracks separately, which are 1 meter long each. They come in twos for about 70 euros or 1,300 rand. I'll be using this track saw as my jointer, as you can see on the screen, as well as to break down sheet materials. After milling and jointing these two species of hardwood, I ripped them up into 4 cm strips on my Stanley table saw. So, why do we need tools? In my case, power tools. They just make the whole process of woodworking fast. I, for one, have a 9-to-5 job with overtime duties on top of that for about 10 days in a month. So time is very precious to me. I do woodworking more to help me dealing with daily stress by accomplishing project goals. After each build, I just feel like I have conquered this wood and turned it into what I had imagined it to be, which is a very fulfilling experience. After each build, I feel like I have conquered this wood and turned it to whatever I had imagined it to be, which is a very fulfilling experience. How do you usually feel after completing a certain task or a goal that you had set for yourself? Pretty awesome, right? And don't get me wrong, you can go the non-power tool route, which is pretty fulfilling as well, but that's for people with a lot of time on their hands, which is not me. I just love my metabo planer. So you can plane boards as wide as 34 centimeters or 13 inches wide, as well as 16 centimeters or 6 inches tall stock. So after milling your chopping board, you're pretty much done at this point if you want a long grain kind of chopping board. But I wanted to go a step further and make it an end grain cutting board, which has a few advantages over the long grain kind of boards like the one I'm carrying. I used my tracksaw again to help me square up the one edge. Then I went on to the table saw and ripped the long grain board into its final thickness of 3 centimeters or 1.18 inches. Not sure how that is in the fractions, but yeah, that's the decimal. With the fibers of the wood facing up, meaning the end grain, your knives will keep a sharper edge for longer, and the end grain cutting boards also absorb water, which prevents microorganisms from developing. And lastly, they just look pretty awesome, man. You remember that dripping intro? These boards look really stunning. After you're done with all of your sanding, finally you get to applying a food safe finish, then you'll have a chopping board that you are proud to use. I applied a generous amount of glue on the face side of the boards, of the blocks. Then I turned them end grain facing up, then I left them in the clamps overnight to set. I actually underestimated how much wood I'll really need for this project. I ended up having a board that's more of a square, yet I wanted a rectangular kind of shape in my chopping board. So I decided to add some long grain boards to the sides and left it overnight to dry up, and then I milled that board to be flat and rectangular. So I'd really like to know, what is your relationship with your tools and what really pushes you to buying a new tool? For me, it depends on how much that tool will help me work faster, as well as how often will I be using that tool. If I'm not using it often, why should I buy it? My shop is pretty much set right now with tools. I can produce some serious small builds from this little workshop, which is about 4.2 by 2.5 meters or 14 by 8 feet dimensions. I think what's missing in my shop right now is mainly dust collection. As you can see, there's dust everywhere. For this year, 2025, My goal is to try and be more organized and clean in my workshop and my working environment, since I need to show you the best content that I can produce, as well as it feels really good working in a clean environment, isn't it? I think I'm a pretty messy person in general, but I'm working on it this year, don't worry. I don't have a dust extractor right now, and they are quite pricey on the market, so I've been looking into maybe buying a moto and building my own dust extractor. It seems like it would be an interesting challenge. What do you think? I've seen a couple of these builds on YouTube, so I'm pretty confident that I can pull this one off. After all, I learned everything I know about woodworking on YouTube. I used a small roundover bit on the cutting board to break all the edges and did some final sanding. Before I went on to apply finish, I needed to wipe down the board with a wet rug so I can then come back and sand again those grains that are probably lying down. I'd really appreciate if you could smash that like button for me if you've enjoyed this video thus far, as well as if you want to see more content like this. I used some coconut oil to finish this cutting board. I gave it about 3 coats and we were done. Here's an awesome build video that you can watch next.